The reason why we developed this tool was because the world is getting more uncertain, and it's getting more uncertain every day. And managers are faced with, how do I make investments in the face of this uncertainty? Not only that, competition is on the increase. And so any investment that I make today is going to eventually get attacked by competition if it's profitable, and I'm going to see my profits erode over time. So we have these two levels of uncertainty. One is whether we're going to be able to get the costs and revenues that we anticipated, and then the second one is how long we're going to be able to do it. And we developed this tool that takes into account that sort of competitive wave with the overlay of uncertainty. Now this competitive wave, as you can see in the first chart and first graphic, comprises four pieces. Launch, from the time that you think of making the investment until the time you actually got the operation going to where you'd be getting sales. So this is where you're putting your money in. Then you have a ramp up. You start off with relatively low sales, and that kind of ramps up to either a steady growth condition or a steady state condition. Once you've got through the ramp up period is your exploitation period, and this is the time that you're making your money, but alas, along comes competition, and in the erosion period competitors enter and they erode away whatever profits you have, and your challenge then is to come up with the next investment. What we want to try to do is give managers tools to very rapidly and easily assess whether an investment is worth pursuing or not. And we allow them to input basically 11 pieces of data and very rapidly assess what the net present value is, the total value, discounting all your cash flows over time of that investment. So let's have a look at how this works. In the next graphic we show you the judgments on timing dimensions, and as you can see here in this particular project, management or the people who did the first plan have 2 years for launch, they have 3 years for the ramp up, they have 4 years for competitive impact, and then after 14 years the competition has eroded away all the profits and you better be on to something else or I'll see you in bankruptcy court. And that's a judgment. We have to use managerial judgment to make our best estimates of what those timings are. And what I want to try to stress here is that the purpose of this tool is to help you be roughly right rather than what I say is precisely wrong. You don't want to be wrong to 4 decimal places. You want a pretty good idea of what this investment's worth and the places where you can be, you need to be most sensitive to the being wrong. You can't be right, but you can worry about and work on how to make yourself roughly right. In the next chart, we look at the investment profile. We have put in a cost of capital of 25%. This is the money that the market charges you to provide you with capital, either in the form of equity or debt. And you better deliver a better return than that, otherwise the market's going to walk away from you. And with an uncertain venture, you're going to be expecting that cost of capital will be pretty darn high. In this particular project, they're asking 25%. And then what you have is a number of investment decisions. Now, the investment can take one of two conditions. One is where I just keep on putting in money, like maintaining a research team or running a research lab or whatever the case may be. And then the second one is tranches of investment that I put in, say, to build a pilot plant or build a plant or buy the land. And the way this is structured, you get 3 shots at the investment in lump sums. 500,000 at the start, $1 million after 6 months, and $2 million after 18 months. And this then specifies when you're putting money in the launch phase. Hopefully very soon after that you start selling and the ramp-up stage starts. And that's the next graphic. And what we're looking at here is under steady state conditions, what are the main drivers of revenues and costs? As you can see in this particular project, they're putting in about $7 million in fixed costs a year. There's a maximum demand rate in units per year of 50,000. There's a variable production cost of $150 per unit for each one that you sell, and there's a sales revenue or price that you get of $400. In addition to this, when you ramp up your project, you also have to build up inventory and receivables, and that's part of your investment. And in this particular project, they estimated about 33% of the revenues that the company is making is going to appear either as inventory or receivables. So that's your operations condition. And now what we can do is do the valuation. Now what this little software does is it takes all those data, it estimates the net present value of that whole profile over time in microseconds, and it allows you to get on with discussing what you, what your sensitivity and what you agree or disagree with respect to those initial inputs. Notice I'm not concerned about being right here because I know I'm wrong, and certain investments are wrong. And so what I'm going to be doing is working with the team to help them help me think where they would like to change the input data. And what I try to do in a project like this is bring on board people with different kinds of expertise that I respect. And the deal that I cut with them is that if there's any number that they think is wrong, they need to tell me now, not later. And they need to give me a best alternative number and their reason why. So we can listen to the presentation of what people have to say and together make a judgment as to what the most appropriate number might be. And notice it now becomes their plan or our plan and not just my plan. In this particular case, as you can see at the bottom of the graphic, if those numbers pan out like I initially put in, you have a $330,000 net present value positive. Which, if you think about it, is a little bit tricky because if you look up at the launch phase, we're putting about $3 million into this project and we're only getting $330,000 out. So technically, you know, what I should do is invest, but the reality is that little by way of return is an awful little return in the face of the big investment that you're making. So I would treat this right away as at risk, which means I now need to do some sensitivity analyses. And once again, these sensitivity analyses can be done in microseconds. So let's say we got into a discussion, if you have a look at the next chart, about the cost of capital, and someone or the group agrees that, you know, given the riskiness of this project, it should be even higher. If you put in 30% return required as opposed to 25%, your net present value goes straight south from a $300,000 positive to a $715,000 negative. So this project is very, very sensitive to cost of capital. Alternatively, if we look at the next graphic, what happens if we delay the project? In this particular case, and this actually happened in a real case recently, management wanted to delay the project by 6 months while they made up their minds. And we said, well, let's put in what the impact's going to be of delaying, firstly, the ramp-up time, because we're going to wait longer to ramp up, and then secondly, delaying the exploitation time because it's going to take longer to get exploitation. And of course, competition is not going to let you off. So they're going to come in, you know, just as soon. And that basically means is if you sit diddling around for 6 months trying to make up your mind, your project goes from a $330,000 positive to a $693,000 negative. And so this is the cost of indecision. A place where you're often worried about being wrong is, you know, will we get the demand that we anticipated? And here what you can see is that we're going to move from 50,000 units down to 45,000 units. And if that happens and we don't achieve our demand, we're suddenly going to go to a negative $1.2 million. So one of the things I'd be really worried about with this project is to spend some time getting better estimates of what the demand might be before I start throwing big money at the project. And I'd rather spend a couple of $100,000 to find I was dead wrong than to spend $3.5 million to find out I was dead wrong. Finally, what we might be concerned about is how quickly are the competitors going to respond. And this is increasingly a problem for people today, as competition is getting really aggressive and they come in from all parts of the world. So in this particular case, what we've said is what happens if these guys come in and start eating our lunch after 3.5 years instead of 4 years. And as you can see, what that does is it takes away your positive net present value and gives you a modest negative. But overall, what we've been able to do now is very rapidly input management judgments about what the appropriate numbers might be, and then do very, very rapid sensitivity analyses of the outcomes that we get. And we can also now take this project and compare it to other projects so that we can choose the projects that seem to have the best bang for the buck in terms of net present value in relation to initial investment.